Today I'm working with a Samsung dryer that is making a lot of noise when it's running. These dryers have a tendency to make a lot of noise. They start doing squealing when they start and stuff like that. I've already dealt with this one a couple times. Nothing manufacturer problem wise, it's simply just old. So I'm going to be going through. I ordered a service kit for it, assuming I know what the problem is going to be when I open it up, but wanted to make a video to show people how to check out their noisy dryer, or even if it's failed, give you some of those tips too. So let's get into it. First thing we got to do is move the dryer away from the wall, which is a little tricky, but we're going to slide it out. For this, I typically don't disconnect the vent tube. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it's cold. If it's been running, make sure it's cold. But then we're going to unplug the power. Just grab it by the cord right here, by the head, and pull it out. Do not touch the metal prongs, okay? But yeah, just pull that cord right out of the wall just like you would any other appliance. Next thing we're going to do is take a screwdriver and loosen these clamps on the back side right here. So you just need a screwdriver, put a Phillips head on it. And one of the interesting things, if you leave them partially in, they don't really have to come all the way out as long as they're loose. Let's see if I can show you this. There's a clamp right there. I've left it loose with a little bit of air gap on top. That's going to allow it to hinge so we can open it up. The next part is the tricky part. You're going to need a flat bar or pry bar or something like that. We're going to open up the door here. And then there is a spring-loaded metal clip right here that's kind of shaped like a ledge that's locking this top part down. So it helps if you can reach up from the back and pull forward towards the front of the dryer. And then with the other hand, give this a jarring, bumping motion up. If you use a pry bar or something, you're going to mess up the paint, the finish right here, which will start rusting in no time flat. But the other thing is that you might, depending on how you get at it, you might bend the sheet metal on both sides. So I really don't recommend that, but I want to try to give you a good view of what's going on. Let's see, I'm going to kind of pull it forward this way and up. So I'm going to try to do this motion. See if I can get it. Loosening those back clips really helps. There we go. There's the ledge that it was on. Here's the clips that are holding it. Kind of funky looking, but that's what holds them down. So you're trying to basically pull the lip out of this little edge and then up. So as you can see, like right here, that's what's hooked. See, mine are slightly deformed because I've done this a couple times. Okay, the inside of the dryer is fairly simple. This is your drum. This little tiny guy right here is the belt that actually rotates the entire assembly. So we're going to replace that while we're here too. It's got some felt liners that keep everything quiet on both sides. And then for the next purposes, what we're going to do is we're going to undo this wiring harness. We're going to undo these twist clips and just take the wire out. And if you haven't already, secure your lid so it doesn't fall back down on you, because that wouldn't be fun. Anyways, we're going to take the wiring harness out so we don't have to worry about it anymore. And then we're going to undo these 3 screws right here. Let me show you. A little bit better, there we go. Going around the front of the machine, you want to take out the lint trap, set that aside, and then we're going to take out 3 more screws right on the front here. When you take out that last screw, the assembly is going to want to lean forward on you. It's got safety so it can't fall, but just be careful of it. Next, we're going to take the door loose from the front. Now, anytime you work around stamped sheet metal, which is what all these things are, you're going to want to put on some sort of leatherized, canvas, rubberized gloves that have some sort of a coating so you don't get cut, because these can be extremely sharp and you don't want to get injured doing this stuff. It's not fun. So I'm going to push forward this way and then lift up to get over this clip like that. Same thing on the other side like that. Now before I pull it away all the way, there is the limit switch right inside of here. The wiring harness goes to it. I'm just going to pull the wiring harness out of the limit switch. There we go. That's all it is. There's no clip, there's no nothing else that locks it in place. Just pull on it gently by the connector right here, not the wires. Just pull on it by the connector, pull it straight out, and it comes undone. I'll set that back over here. Helpful if you don't have it, use masking tape of some sort and tape your wires off to the side so they don't fall back into what you're doing. Okay, as we pull the face away, it just sits on some pins down there. Just go ahead and lift it up gently. And it lifts straight off. And we'll set it aside. Come back to it later on. Better do it this way so I don't scratch the paint of the door. There we go. All right, let's get down here. Okay, so here's your drum housing. Drums on the inside still. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to take off these 3 screws. 1, 2, and then 3 right here. And then we're gonna have to disconnect this guy, which this is it's the moisture sensor that tells you when your clothes are dry enough. Got a little push clip on there, just undo that, let it sit down inside there. Okay, let's see if I can get this over here. Set those screws down right there. And this is going to pull kind of forward. And then once it's a little bit down, a little bit back like that, just shimmy it down, walk it down. And then it comes straight off. Just like that. And we'll set that guy aside for later on. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen these 4 screws. Take them out, I should say. Took my bit out at the same time. Now, if you look at it, all these brackets are keyholed right here. They go, there's a tab on the other side that slides in and fits down inside there. So we're gonna have to lift this whole assembly up, and then we can pull this part off. Now, when we do that, you're gonna have to use two hands. One hand support the drum from the inside, and the other hand is gonna be used to hold this guy and pull it off the front as it goes around. All right, lift up with the drum and the face assembly at the same time. They both come up. And then I'll pull the face assembly out, kind of exaggerate the movement from the bottom out first. Let the drum sit there. And now the face is off. Most of the time when you have noisy dryer, it's typically something wrong with these wheels, making too much noise. The way these come from Samsung, or at least the knockoffs, but the originals too. These are a graphite impregnated bearing on the inside, so do not lubricate these things. Lubricant will essentially destroy them. So, rule of thumb, if you ever have any trouble with the wheels, replace all four, replace the studs they go on, and then replace the drive belt. Everything is linked together. So that's what we're gonna do here. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pull that drive belt off of there. That's a spring-loaded idler arm that sits down there. I'm gonna try to set this up in such a way where you can see it. And I can videotape while I'm doing it. Let's see if I can do this. I'm gonna lift the idler arm up against the spring and basically just try to roll that belt off of there. There we go. Now the belt's loose. In case you haven't noticed, that's under a lot of tension. All right, so now we can pull the belt off. Belts out. If you're getting a chirping metal on metal noise, this felt liner that's in the front right here, it's a seal / liner, this might be worn down, but that indicates you have other problems as well too. So we're going to pull this drum out now, and it just lifts straight up and comes out. Your biggest problem is getting it through doorways and figuring out where to store it while you're doing this. There's a notch for it on the front. It'll come straight out the front. Just like that. And we're off with it. All right, so here is the inside of the dryer. This is kind of average. You'll want to go through here and pick up a lot of this lint that's now blown all over everything. Many years of service has done this. And you want to pick everything up off the back, anything that might be down there. Sweep, vacuum, use a leaf blower if you need to, something, get it all out of there. But very important, vacuum this motor and clean it as much as possible. Again, we're unplugged, no power, but this getting around this motor and causing poor airflow around it will burn this motor out really quick. And then this is your heating element right here. So it actually gets the air hot, and it takes the air from just inside here, sucks it in. Well, it goes in this way, comes out here, and then from here, it sucks it through your lint trap, out this blower motor, and then out the machine into your exhaust stack. So we're gonna look at things in here. Looks like I don't have a lot of wear on that pulley, which is good. Motor still sounds like it's okay, at least free spinning, rotating. There's my rear wheels right there. This one doesn't look too bad, but it's sluggish. It's definitely been dragging. This one back here looks bad. Oh, there's your problem right there. That's not good. Okay. So we found the source of the noise. So now it's just on to the repair. That's the easy part. Repairing stuff is easy. All right. Okay, for this next step, I will have to take out this back mounting drum over here. So if you notice on this guy, there's only screws protruding from the other side. So for this particular one, what we actually have to do is we have to unscrew it from the back to get this out. So if you look down on the sides down there, they're hard to see, but there's basically 4 screws from the back of the machine. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I believe there's 2 more up here. We'll have to take those out. And then because it will lift out of here, we'll also have to take the heater unit loose. So for that, I believe all you have to do for this guy is take out this one screw, I think. You just take out that one screw there, and then, yep, the whole thing lifts off, like that. And then for this, what I'll do is I'll put that one screw back in so I don't lose it, because I don't like mismatching sheet metal screws. Undid the rest of this wiring harness right here, just one more clip, but it's held on to this back plane that we're going to remove. So I undid that. Close this lid back down. This is where your space is about to become a premium, so might want to pre-stop for this. We got to pull this out the rest of the way now to get behind it. Yep. Back on top here. All right, so back of the machine here. Starting at the top, we're going to pull out these 2 screws right here. Then we're going to pull out these 2 screws right here, and the same on this side. Those 2 screws right there. And then we'll see. I think that's it. Yeah, I think those 6 screws, and then we're done. Now, some people might be asking why I didn't pull off the top piece here, because it's got this, remember this wiring harness that was in this corner right here? That guy goes all the way back up to a printed circuit board back here. So unless you want to take the face and everything else apart and undo the wiring itself to it, just leave it attached. It's a lot easier. Start back over here. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Gloves back on because nobody wants cut up hands, especially sheet metal cuts. They don't cut light, it cuts all the way to the bone. Put this back up. There we go. And now this inner piece. Trying to get a good position here. Because everything was on brackets, we should be able to lift this guy straight up and it should come out. Yep. No clips, no nothing else. We'll take this guy out and move on to the wheel replacement. Alright, so before we start, I got this really nice little kit here from Amazon. You could type your washer model number in and it typically pulls up a lot of repair parts and stuff. I just happened to get this kit because I've done stuff like this before. It's a service kit for that dryer. So it comes with 4 brand new wheels. And these are great because they come with the stud and everything. For these particular Samsung dryers, do not purchase these if it doesn't come with the stud. Because the stud, that's this part right here. The stud is a bearing surface. This little part right here is the other half of the bearing. If you put a brand new wheel on an old stud, it'll chew up that bearing in no time flat at all. Remember, there's graphite in there, so no WD-40, no grease, no nothing else inside there. Do not put anything inside there, and make sure they're clean when you install them. This kit also came with a new idler pulley, which is great because if you have one that's old, this is the first time doing it, your idler pulley probably has a deep groove worn in it where that belt was running. So we've got a new idler pulley, a new idler pulley spring. Sometimes if your dryer won't run, that's all it did, is it just broke the spring and the idler assembly fell down. And then a new belt. Like I said earlier, all of this stuff is related. So if your wheels wear down and they start doing like mine did, where they chew up and slow the drum down, this belt gets destroyed. Even if it's working, it's destroyed. If it goes long enough, it'll destroy this too. So it's just the safest thing to do. Get in there one time and do it. Replace all these components all at the same time. Call it done. This wasn't bad. This particular kit was under $40. It was easy. I had it, I think, the next day or something when I ordered it. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get the drum ends up here and we're gonna replace the 4 wheels. Now the first time I did this, because I've replaced these wheels once before, and by the way, these service kits, non-OEM, this is aftermarket, this lasted about 2 years, which was great. Got 2 more years of life out of it. But the first time I did this, the nuts that hold on this stud right here, these guys were impact tight. And I'm not talking the little electric impact like I use in the video. I'm talking I needed a pneumatic impact wrench to take the nuts off of these things. They were extremely tight. So just be advised that could be the possibility. But this time I should be able to spin them off with my electric wrench. And then let's go ahead and get those up here and get them going. Okay, here's what I'm gonna use to repair this. I'm very safety conscious minded, so make sure I'm going to use an impact wrench. So make sure you wear safety glasses, because sockets can fly apart, especially if you're using chrome ones that are not impact rated. They can shatter like glass as you're impacting them. Doesn't take much. I'm going to use gloves to prevent cut hazards. Going to use my earplugs because impacting on sheet metal is so loud, it's crazy. I hate impacting on sheet metal. The socket I'm using that fits this nice is a 14mm socket. If you don't have a 14mm, 9/16 and 14 pretty much are a direct cross for each other. I'm going to use my impact driver. And then the other side of that stud, if you want to use a pair of pliers or a pair of slip locks or whatever, you can. But the good size that actually fits on that is an open-end 8mm wrench. But if you want to use a crescent or something, go ahead and do that. Let's see if I could buzz this guy off. Last time I needed pneumatic. Let's try it with electric. Those off, because last time I did not hammer the heck out of them putting them on. All right, and this is a good time to clean this componentry too while you have it apart. I'm going to take the new wheels, push it up against the old wheels and see what my differences are. There's a retaining washer that has to come off. Other than that, look like the same size, the same shape. Everything looks the same. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one back in. Just get the nut on top of it. Small wrenches, not easy to do. Changed. I have to do this other one now. Now that we've identified the wheels are pretty much the exact same thing. And since you are impacting directly against this stud, which isn't captive, except for what you hold with that wrench is going to want to spin pretty good. So like I did, I got a second pair of gloves that were heavier so I could wrap it around the wrench. And these absorbed most of the impact instead of my hand. That was necessary. Start it right. There we go. Okay, piece number 2. Change the battery out of my impact. That should help some too. Small wrenches are hard to hold while you're impacting though. Give you that. Oh, good. All right. Since it's such a small. Those two are back on. All right, looks like this is ready to go back in. Okay, so we're gonna start to clean this guy out now, so it's ready for us to go back in there. All I'm gonna do to clean this out is I'm using a dustpan. I'm gonna pick it up. Again, wear gloves. There's a lot of sharp sheet metal down inside there, so wear gloves. Be very mindful of where you're putting your hands and arms, knees, anything like that. And just sweep it out, pick it up, use a vacuum cleaner, use a leaf blower, whatever you need to do. Just get that all cleaned back out of there. Let's do it. All right, so you're now from the inside of the machine. The front of the machine is this way, but this is the motor, and this is that idler arm. This is the belt brake switch. So basically, if this arm falls down while the machine is running, it trips this switch and tells the motor and heater element to shut off. It avoids a fire. That's basically what that does. So very careful during this process not to damage this switch. So we're going to replace this arm. Right now I've got the new one. Oops, sorry about that. Got the new one. Looks about the same. Looks about the same type of part. So we're going to go ahead and take this off. Get it noisy here. Now, important here, this is a shouldered screw. So this, the one actually comes with a new one, and we're going to want to use it because the diameter of that shoulder is extremely important. So there's a new one, same as the old one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just walk it off the spring, remove it. And of course, we got a new spring as well. Huzzah. So we're going to want to take this, put it back in the best way it makes sense. In this case, it's hooked around right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook that one right there as well. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna hook this spring up at the same time. So that way the spring is already on there. And then we're gonna take this guy, put him back in here. And now I've got to find out where that hole is. Oop, there it is. Sorry, I'm blocking here. Always make sure, start this guy by hand. And let him go into that shoulder by hand too. There we go. Never force this stuff. Tighten it in. Just a little bit. Doesn't need to be super tight. Now it should be the exact same way as the old one was. Okay. Okay, got that stuff replaced, ready to go outside, grab the drum shell and bring it back in. I'm going to put the rear one back in first. And that means we're going to put those 6 screws back in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then when we place it back down in there, it hangs right here on these guys on both sides. So I'm going to tape it, but it's hard to see, so I'm just explaining it now. You got to hook it right here on both sides, and then we'll have to close the shell, pull the dryer back out, put the 6 screws in, and move the dryer back to this location. All right, those slots I was just talking about, here's where they mount up right here. This guy hangs on this side right here, and this other guy hangs on it right there, okay? Wiring harness stays behind. So keep that guy there. Go hook that side. Go hook that side. Okay. So it's done. Ready to move the dryer back up. Just to make this a little easier before I spin it out, we're going to go ahead and take this guy, which I've cleaned very thoroughly. And I'm going to go ahead and put him back in there. Like that. And now, pull the screw out. Put him down in there. Put the screw back in. Probably easier to just do it with the drill. Alright, that one could be tight. Now we'll move around to the back. Okay. Gonna put our 6 screws back in. You want to do this, just start each one. Don't tighten anything until they're all in. Because it's just sheet metal on the other side. You might have to wiggle and move around things to get them to work. You might have to start some screws crooked in order to get the hole to line up. Don't worry about it too much. Drop them. All 6 are in. And with sheet metal, you don't need much. If you get too much out of them and just strip the hole, then you'll need a new piece and you're in a lot of trouble. All right, put the drum in. Same way it came out. And right at the end here, we're gonna lift this back end up just slightly to hook it over the wheels down there. And then when you look down, it should be flush all the way down. We're gonna let it rest on the motor right now since we don't have the front plate in. Okay. Next, we're gonna take the new drive bolt. Open it up. Face it all the same direction. You can do that just by pulling it. There's 2 sides to this guy. One has slight lines on it, little grooves that fit into that motor pulley, and the other one is nice and flat. So what we're going to do is put this groove side down, and then we're going to go ahead and put this around the drum. Be done in a couple steps. The easiest is to lift it up kind of till it's kind of tight, then lift the drum up and just kind of walk it back. Right until it's over where it was laying when we took it apart. Just like that. So there's not a good way of showing you this, sticking the camera inside in any sort of meaningful fashion. So this is the way the belt goes. It comes from around the drum, over the top, and then it goes around this idler pulley, then around the motor, and then back up to the other side of the drum. The idler pulley constantly wants to pull tension this way. So therefore you need to pull the pulley all the way back up to the left and thread the belt around it. And then by feel, you have to feel that it's engaged into this drum part, into the, into the motor part right there. And then don't worry about the alignment too much on the drum. As long as it's semi-close, it'll straighten itself out when it runs. Let's see if I can do this. Reach my hand around the back. First side has to come up under there. And now what I'm doing is I'm reaching this is the side that has all the little grooves on it. That's going around the motor right now. I'm using my fingers. I can feel it's in the motor groove right now. And now that's pulled tension. Okay. This is going to be hard. Oh. Figures, huh? All right. Walk this back up inside there. With my other hand to hold a little bit of tension off of it. Yep. Fighting that spring the whole way. Oh, I got it over the tensioner, but lost it on the motor. Figures. Okay. All right. pulley over the motor and back up on the drum. That's the way it should look when it's done. And you really have to stick your hand in there and use your finger to feel that it's level, it's flush in the pulley. Because if it's sitting crooked on there, as soon as the motor starts, it's going to just fall right out of that thing. So everything looks like it's back and good. Yep. And the switch is still working good. Okay, we're done. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is take the face, put it back on. We're gonna make sure we care to align these little flat sheet metal pegs with these guys. Remember, there's 4 of them it has to sit in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the drum up first and set the drum on top of these wheels. And then we're going to set the whole assembly back down inside, making sure that it's done there. So we got the wheels underneath the drum right now. Now I've got one side in, and got the other side in too. Got those guys in, lined up, and then what we'll have to do next is connect. This is the moisture sensor. Make sure you connect the moisture sensor back up. Right there. Nice and tight, it's ready to go. Okay, now we'll put these 4 screws back in. Screws down here. Again, just start them. Don't drive them down until all 4 are in. Again, sheet metal. Don't cram them down tight. Okay. Now we've got that on. Now we can take the drum and we can spin it from the inside. And you should be able to listen to everything roll. If it gets a little bit of tension, then you hear a pop and a bang, and then it spins really nice. That means your belt has fallen off. But as you can see on top, the belt is pretty much tracking exactly where it was. Okay. Now we will go ahead and put the lint trap assembly, or the, I guess this would be an Air Force assembly, back inside there. Clean it out real quick. Yep, you'll have a ton of lint inside there. Take the extra second and clean it out. That way it's good. Okay, it comes off, it goes back on the same way it came off. So we're going to go ahead and put it straight underneath this guy, right here. We're going to very carefully start to walk him up, like that. And then at the end, you put the 3 screws back in we took out originally. One over here on the blower motor assembly. One up here. And one right over here. That's plastic, don't over tighten this one. This one's in plastic, don't over tighten it. Alright. Okay, we're going to take the front assembly now. We're going to put it back on. The door just sits right in those little C channels down there at the bottom. Little pins. So push it down in there, swivel it left to right, find its place. Before you do anything else, remember, you took the door limit switch apart earlier. Remember? Yeah, it's time to put that back on. So we're going to go ahead, orientate the plug. There's a little notch in the plug. This side faces towards the drum, on mine anyway. Pushes right in there. Little tiny bit of a clip. Just make sure that wire is loose off to the side here. Next thing we're going to do, you got your gloves on, right? I'm going to push down on that sheet metal. I'm going to push this over. Push down this sheet metal, push that over. Snaps back into place. Before you put the hardware in, go ahead and put the wiring clips back together, just so you don't forget. Because if you're anything like me, you forget. Go ahead and put those back down inside there. Twist it together. Okay, so now the wiring harness is back in place. Now we're going to take those 3 screws, put them back in the top. Start with the center. Go to either edge. There's no real right or wrong way to do this, as long as you don't drop it down the inside of the dryer. That's all that really matters. Last 3 screws. Remember where they went? Your last 3 screws. One right there. The other one goes right here. And the third one goes right up here. This one's in plastic. Don't over tighten it. Run it down just till it's snug. Call it a day. Okay. We put the lid trap back in. Only goes in one way. Now we're going to go ahead and close the lid back, making sure our wiring harness isn't in the way anywhere. That's clicked back into place. We go towards the back. Going to tighten these screws down. Number 1. Number 2. And then holding the head of the plug, not touching any of the brass componentry. I'm going to go ahead and put that back in. And now we're live. Push it back into place. Have to deal with the tubing bent a little bit on the other side. Nice and quiet now. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and let me know what you think. If you have any problems with anything, I'll help out where I can, but so many models are so different. Some things might be a little different, but don't be afraid to get in there and try it. All right, stay safe, have a good day.